No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man's and yet as mortal as his own. Intellects vast and cool and unsympathetic regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. I didn't write that. H.G. Wells. Okay, welcome. Midnight Mystery Players are presenting a reenactment of the iconic 1938 radio broadcast of War of the Worlds with Orson Welles by the Mercury Theater on the Air. On that fateful October 1938 evening, thousands of listeners who missed the opening disclaimers by Mr. Welles, indicating it was science fiction, were terrified to hear that invaders from Mars had landed in New Jersey. Causing widespread panic, people called police, jammed switchboards, and fled their homes. We ask you to suspend your belief and pretend you were listening to that CBS program on that night in 1938. Feel free to close your eyes if you wish. You tuned in a few minutes late, and this is what you heard.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. Tonight we present The War of the Worlds from the pen of H.G. Wells. Before we begin, here's a message from one of our sponsors, Jell-O Chocolate Pudding.
Jell-O.
Extra, extra, extra good news. The makers of Jell-O have discovered a way to give you rich, luscious chocolate pudding far more easily and far more economically than ever before.
With the new Jell-O chocolate powder, you can make old-fashioned pudding smooth, creamy, and chocolatey, just like the ones Grandmother used to make back in the good old days. Now you can have them again, and this is all you have to do. Just combine the contents of the package of chocolate Jell-O pudding with milk on top of your double boiler, letting it cook until it becomes smooth and thick. When the mixture cools, serve it in sherbet glasses. You'll have enough for 6 servings, and that means 6 happy people.
Jell-O chocolate pudding is so simple, so inexpensive, and so downright delicious that you mustn't delay trying it. Ask your grocer for Jell-O chocolate pudding, and if he hasn't put it in stock yet, be sure he orders it for you. Remember the name, Jell-O chocolate pudding.
Jell-O.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, trekkers and trekkies, here from the Unity Church in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. We are pleased to be with you on this beautiful evening, and...
Have you seen Orson around here?
Joan, don't you recognize me? Have I been away from the Mercury Players that long?
Oh, how silly of me. It's all that makeup. What the hell have you been doing while we've been putting on the Wells thing? I mean, putting together the other Wells thing, I mean.
Oh, Denton's Death. You know, the play about the French Revolution and all that, but now I'm here, even if it's only a few minutes before the broadcast.
Orson, well, there you are. Where have you been? Have you seen the script?
I was going to ask you and Joan the same question. Where is the script?
Paul and Anne Freelick have it. They're doing a last-minute polishing job.
I don't know, guys. This seems like an awfully silly story to me. Where's the love interest? Where's the gut-wrenching conflict? I know the world gets it and all, but Martians raiding the English countryside?
No. Orson, we changed all that. We brought it a little closer to home. In fact, the action now takes place outside of Princeton in New Jersey.
Grover's Mill, New Jersey, to be specific.
Grover's Mill. Where the hell is that?
Well, that was my doing. I sort of threw a dart at a map of the East Coast, and that's where it landed.
Roll of the dice, so to speak.
Hello, Orson. Joan?
Oh, Bob Trout, how goes the war over in the newsroom?
Nothing much happens on Sunday, you know, even if it is Halloween.
Bob, you've given me an idea. You people over in the CBS newsroom are doing a new technique ever since the Munich crisis.
Oh, you mean we interrupt this program to bring you a news bulletin? Prague, Czechoslovakia.
Yes, that's it. You people are camped out in that room downstairs waiting for the war in Europe to break out at any moment, ever since Chamberlain gave in to Hitler.
Well, that's the main thing we have going over newspapers. We have instant communication with our listeners from all over the world. It's almost like the ears of Americans are conditioned to expect a doomsday in progress.
Well, how about these lines from the news script? Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental News Service.
Oh, that's good, Howard, but why can't we say CBS News?
The vice presidents won't allow us to.
I seem to have heard that before.
That's Reddick listening to the Hindenburg crash, getting ready to describe the end of New Jersey in the script.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its citizens. However,
Who the hell is that? The president?
No, it's Ms. Delmer. She can do the president at a drop of a hat, but we can't call her that. We have to call her the Secretary of the Interior.
And why is that?
Vice Presidents.
Stand by.
Here's your script, Orson.
Thank you.
Good luck.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of Mercury Theater and star of our broadcast, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts of the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. It was near the end of October. Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crossley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature, 66. Minimum, 48. This weather report brought to you by the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room of the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you'll be entertained by the music of Ramon Recao and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from the Meridian Room at the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City. We bring you the music of Ramon Raqueo and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Ramon Raqueo leads off with La Comparsita.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving towards the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Ramon Raqueo, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now, a tune that never loses favor, the ever-popular Stardust, Ramon Raqueo and his orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with a noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you, until then, to the music of Ramon Raqueo and his orchestra. We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the Observatory of Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides his ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Oh, nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be at the point nearest Earth. In opposition, as we call it.
As in your opinion, do these transverse stripes signify? What do they signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips.
I see.
Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced as a scientist that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars.
I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, How do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Mr. Phillips, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from the Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance.
Thank you.
Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
There, ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the Natural History Museum in New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within the radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division, unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Oh, hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we will have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millette and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music. We take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again out at the Wilmoth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself, we've made the 11 miles from Princeton only 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin to paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes. It's like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet, and I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on the way down. What I can see of the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor, at least not the meteors I've seen. It looks like a huge cylinder. It has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say is the diameter of this thing?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is a sort of yellowish white. Curious spectators now are pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. They're getting in front of my light of vision. Would you mind standing to one side, please?
One side, Bear, one side.
Well, a policeman is pushing the crowd back. Here's Mrs. Wilmoth, owner of the farm here. She may have some interesting facts to add. Mrs. Wilmoth, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? Step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Wilmoth.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder, please.
Pardon me?
Louder, please, and closer.
Yes, sir. I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsing. That professor fella was talking about Mars. So I was half dozing and half...
Yes, Mrs. Wilmoth, and what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio and kind of halfway...
Yes, Mrs. Wilmoth, and then you saw something?
Not first off, I heard
And
something.
what did you hear?
A hissing sound like this. Kind of like a 4th of July rocket.
Yes, and then what?
I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was still to sleep and dreaming.
Yes?
I seen that greenish streak and then zingo! Something smacked the ground, knocked me clean out of my chair.
Oh, were you frightened, Mrs. Wilmoth?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of
Oh,
riled.
thank you, Mrs. Wilmoth. Thank you very much.
You want me to tell you some more?
No, that's quite all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard Mrs. Wilmoth, owner of the farm where the thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in a field in back of us, and the police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's of no use. They're breaking right through. Cars' headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. Now, some of the more daring souls are now venturing near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with a policeman. The policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but now it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please, listen. Do you hear it? It's a curious humming sound that seems to have come from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Now we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Well, Professor Pearson,
Yes, Mr. Phillips.
can you tell us something that scraping noise inside the thing's doing?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I see. You still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial, not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth and, as you can see, of cylindrical shape.
Oh, just a minute. Something's happening. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw. This thing must be hollow.
Stand back there. Keep those mitts back, I tell you.
What maybe they said inside trying to escape.
Ma'am, I know where to see her. Keep back there. Keep those idiots back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out of the hollow top. Someone or something. I can see peering out of the black hole 2 luminous discs. Are they eyes? It might be a face. Oh, it might be. Good heavens! Something's wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Oh, now it's another one. And another one, and another one! They look like tentacles to me. I can see the thing's body now. It's large as a bear, and it glistens like wet leather. But let's face it, oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black and gleam like a serpent. The mouth is V-shaped and saliva dripping from its rimless lips that seem to quiver and pulsate. Oh, this monster, or whatever it is, can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back now. Oh, they've seen plenty. This is the most extraordinary experience, ladies and gentlemen. I can't find the words. I'll put the microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute.
we are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmoth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Is this on? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins the Wilmoth's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit, about 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain is conferring with someone. We can't see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted and the professor moves around one side, studying the object while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole, a flag of truce. Those creatures know what that means. Oh, if they do what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. Oh, what's that? There's a jet of flame springing from that mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Good Lord, they're turning into flame. Now the whole field has caught fire. The woods, the barns, the gas tanks and the automobiles are spreading everywhere. It's coming this way, and it's about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at earliest possibility. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin coming in from San Diego, California. Professor Indelhofer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempts to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by Direct Wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give no authoritative information, either to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of the destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. It's all too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that in some way they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute no conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as a mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture on the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in a Trenton hospital. Now, here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. The Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia, stationed outside Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit, and there is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the state militia at Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In the view of the gravity of the situation and believing that radio has a responsibility to serve in the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, is surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry. Without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. The things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. It looks almost like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River. Probably fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust and it will all be over. Now, wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmoth Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. A tub, rather. Wait. That wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal. Kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. Why, it's standing on legs. Actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on!
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead us to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmland tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover's Mill has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men, armed with rifles and machine guns, pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest, strewn over the battlefield from Grover's Mill to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of this monster or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn and service from New York to Philadelphia discontinued, except routing some of the trains through Allentown and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with the frantic human traffic. Police and Army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton. It is estimated to twice their normal populace. Martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. At this time, we take you to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need for calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, and we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of the Interior speaking from Washington. Bulletins too numerous to read are piling up in the studio here. We are informed the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effect of the heat ray upon power lines and electrical equipment. Here is a special bulletin from New York. Cables have been received from English, French, and German scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The majority voice the opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. There have been several attempts made to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who has observed Martians at close range. It is feared he was lost in the recent battle. Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above the treetops, moving north towards Somerville, with population fleeing ahead of them. The heat ray is not in use, although advancing at express train speed, invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid destruction of cities and countryside. However, they stop to uproot lines, power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Here is a bulletin from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder to the first embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morriston. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up second invading unit before cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They are taking up a position in the foothills of the Watchung Mountains. Another bulletin from Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines, now 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morriston. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex, within 10 miles of Plainfield. Here's a bulletin from Winstonfield, Long Island. A fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosives flying north in pursuit of enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep the speeding enemy in sight. Just a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen. We've run special wires to the artillery line in adjacent villages to give you direct reports in the zone of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery, located in the Watchung Mountains.
Range 32 meters.
32 meters.
Projection 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire!
140 yards to the right, sir.
Shift range 31 meters.
31 meters.
Projection 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire!
A hit, sir. We got the tripod on one of them. They've stopped. The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range. Shift 30 meters.
30 meters.
Projection 27 degrees.
27 degrees.
Fire!
I can't see the shell land, sir. They're letting off smoke.
What is it?
A black smoke, sir, moving this way. Lying close to the ground. It's moving fast.
Put on gas masks.
Get ready to fire. Shift to 24 meters.
24 meters.
Projection 24 degrees.
24 degrees.
Fire!
I still can't see, sir. The smoke's coming nearer.
Get the range.
23 meters.
23 meters.
23 meters.
Projection 22 degrees.
22 degrees.
Army bombing plane V-843 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Vogt, commanding 8 bombers. Reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Vogt, reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines now in sight. Reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder. 6 altogether. 1 machine partially crippled, believed hit by a shell from Army gun in Watchung Mountains. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth, of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. The machines are close together now, and we're ready to attack. Planes circling, ready to strike.
1,000 yards and we'll be over the first. 800 yards. 600. 400. 200. There they go. The giant arm raised. Green flash, displaying us with flame. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release bombs. Only one thing left. Drop on them, plane and all. We're diving on the first one. Now the engine's gone. 8.
This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Come in, please.
This is Langham Field. Go ahead.
8 Army bombers in engagement with enemy tripod machines over Jervis Flats. Engines incapacitated by heat ray. All crashed. One enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in the direction.
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. New Jersey. Warning. Poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move into open spaces. Automobiles use Route 7, 23, 24. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now spreading over Raymond Bull.
2X, 2L, calling CQ. 2X, 2L, calling CQ. 2X, 2L, calling 8X3R. Come in, please.
This is 8X3R, coming back at 2X2L.
How's reception? How's reception, Kay, please? Where are you, 8X3R? What's the matter? Where are you?
I'm speaking from the roof of the... I'm speaking from the roof of the Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn people to evacuate the city as the Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the roads to the north. Hutchison River Parkway still kept open for motor traffic. Avoid bridges to Long Island, hopelessly jammed. All communication with New Jersey shore closed 10 minutes ago. No more defenses. Our army is wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything wiped out. This may be the last broadcast. We'll stay here till the end. People are holding service here below us in the cathedral. Now I look down the harbor, all manner of boats overloaded with fleeing population pulling out from docks. Streets are jammed. Noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in city. Wait a minute. The enemy is now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines. First one is crossing the river. I can see it from here, wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. A bulletin is handed to me. Martian cylinders are falling all over the country. One outside of Buffalo, one in Chicago, St. Louis, seem to be timed and spaced. Now the first machine reaches the shore. He stands, watching, looking over his city. His steel cowlish head is even with the skyscrapers. He waits for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. People in the streets see it now. They're running toward the East River, thousands of them, dropping in like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue, 100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
X, 2L, calling CQ. 2X, 2L, calling CQ. 2X, 2L, calling CQ. New York, isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? 2X, 2L.
You are listening to the CBS presentation of Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in the original dramatization of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
As I set down these notes on paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I have been hiding in this empty house near Grover's Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life, a life that has no continuity with the present, fruitive existence of the lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at my blackened hands, my torn shoes, my tattered clothes, and I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton and who on the night of October 30th glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I tell myself, I shall preserve human history between the dark covers of this little book that was meant to record the movements of the stars. But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. I find moldy bread in the kitchen and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. I keep watch at the window. From time to time, I catch sight of a Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil, but at length there is a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in a corner as his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fall asleep. It's morning. Morning. Sun streams through the window. The black cloud of gas is lifted, and the scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm had passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to a road. No traffic. Here and there, a wrecked car, baggage turned over, a blackened skeleton. I push on north. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these monsters than running away from them. And I keep a careful watch. I have seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of the trees, I'm ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I come to a chestnut tree. October. Chestnuts are ripe. I fill my pockets. I must keep alive. 2 days I wander in a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature, a small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe at that moment the animal and I shared the same emotion, the joy of finding another living being. I push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field, and beyond the charred ruins of a dairy, the silo remains standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. Next day, I come to a city vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off, as if a giant had sliced off its highest towers with a capricious sweep of his hand. I reached the outskirts. I found Newark, undemolished but humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouching in a doorway. I made a step towards it. It rose up and became a man armed with a large knife.
Stop! Where do you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. There's no food here. This is my country. All this end of town down to the river. There's only food for one. Which way you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
What was that? Did you hear something just then?
No, only a bird. A live bird.
Yeah, you get to know the birds have shadows these days. Hey, we're in the open here. Let's crawl in this doorway here and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
Nah, they've gone over to New York. At night, the sky's alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Then it's all over with humanity. Stranger, there's still you and I, 2 of us left.
Yeah, they got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars are probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it? I was in the militia. National Guard? That's good. There wasn't any war. Any more than there's war between men and ants.
Yes, but we're edible ants. I found that out. What will they do with us?
I've thought it all out. Right now, we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run, but they won't keep on doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic-like, keeping the best, and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun.
Not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have enough sense to keep quiet, bothering them with guns and such stuff, and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. Now, instead of rushing around blind, we gotta fix ourselves up. fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress, done.
Yes, but if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. If it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
What is there left?
Life! That's what! I want to live. Yeah, so do you. We're not going to be exterminated, and I don't mean to be caught either. Tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men, as men, are finished. We don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we got a chance, and we got to live and keep free while we learn. See? I thought it all out, you see?
Tell me the rest.
Well, it isn't all of us that are made for wild beasts, and that's what it's got to be. That's why I watched you. Watched you. All these little office workers that used to live in these houses, they'd be no good. They haven't any stuff in them. They used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running to catch their commuter's train in the morning, afraid they'd be canned if they didn't, running back at night, afraid they won't be in time for dinner. Lives insured and a little invested in case of accidents. Yeah. And on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. Martians will be a godsend for those guys. Nice, roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Yeah, after a week or so chasing about the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
Sure, you bet I have. And that isn't all. These Martians, they're gonna make pets of some of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows? Get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. Yeah, and some, maybe, they'll train to hunt us.
Oh, no, that's impossible. No human
Yes,
being...
they will. There's men who'll do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me, why? I'm
In the
gonna
meantime, you and I, and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I've got it all figured out. We'll live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, there's miles and miles of them. The main ones are big enough for anybody. And there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, huh? We'll get a bunch of strong men together. No weak ones. That rubbish out.
As you meant me to go.
Well, I gave you a chance, didn't I?
We won't quarrel about that. Go on.
Well, we got to make safe places for us to stay in, see? Get all the books we can. Science books. That's where men like you come in, see? We'll raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. It may not be so much we have to learn before... Now listen, just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays right and left, and not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But men who've learned the way how. It may even be in our time. Gee, imagine having one of them lovely things with a heat ray wide and free. We'd turn it on Martians, we'd turn it on men. We'd bring everybody down on their knees.
That's your plan.
Yeah, you, me, and a few more of us, we own the world.
I see.
Hey, what's the matter? Where you going?
Not to your world. Bye, stranger. Well, after parting with the artilleryman, I came at last to the Holland Tunnel. I entered that silent tube, anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up Canal Street. I reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder and several bodies, and an evil, ominous smell coming from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered up the 30s and 40s. I stood alone on Times Square. I caught sight of a lean dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in his jaws and a pack of starving mongrels at his heels. He made a wide circle around me as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. I walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks, past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark, past a shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of the 1939 motor cars in showrooms facing empty streets. From over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling in the sky. I hurried on. Suddenly, I caught sight of the hood of a Martian machine standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into the park. I climbed the small hill above the pond at 60th Street, and from there I could see, standing in a silent row of the mall, 19 of those great metal titans, their cowls empty, their steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly, my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians, with the hungry birds pecking and tearing brown shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when the bodies were examined in the laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and disease bacteria which their systems were unprepared. Slain after all man's defenses had failed by the humblest thing that God in his wisdom had put upon this earth. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that through all the deep space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful is the vision I have conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastness of sidereal space. But that is a remote dream. It may be that the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve. To them, and not to us, is the future ordained, perhaps. Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful study at Princeton, writing down this last chapter of the record begun at a deserted farm in Grover's Mill. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the disassembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it. Bright, clean-cut, hard and silent, under the dawn of that last great day. This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance, than the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying, boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night. So we did the next best thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you have learned tonight. That glowing, globular, grinning invader in your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch. And if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations coast to coast have brought you The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the 17th in the weekly series of broadcasts featuring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air. Next week, we present a dramatization of 3 famous short stories. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. Thank you. Thank you for attending tonight's Midnight Mystery Players performance of The War of the Worlds. This is an ensemble company. Please hold your applause until the end. Thank you. Announcers were played by J.B. Stiglitz, Mish Kriz, and Sally Lubitich. Orson Welles' Professor Pearson was played by Paul Henderson. Carl Phillips was played by Robert Muzzy. The Stranger was portrayed by Ken Gunning. Cash Cahey played Captain Lansing and the Commander. Sally Lubitich played Mrs. Wilmoth and the Secretary of the Interior. George Koss played General Montgomery Smith. Various other parts were played by the entire company. Music by Catherine Murray. George Koss was our Foley operator. Howard Holt was our sound and light technician. Robert Muzzy, assistant director. Catherine Murray, director. Thank you to the Unity Spiritual Center for the use of our rehearsal space. And again, thank you all for sharing this evening with us. This has been the Midnight Mystery Players.
Change it around, you know, and kind of get different sounds.
It was okay. I just lowered it so I could use
I think the lights seem like they were down. I didn't see nothing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they all need to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. They were dying. The point we were getting to the very end, I can see it clearly now. My eyes are going, I can tell.
Kept you busy this time, George. It sometimes too busy. Yeah. And this is where we had extra ray guns.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, thank you. JD did.
Thank you.
Yeah, so he found it.
I'm so glad you came.
Do a bunch of different things with it. But
Yeah. Don't you fall off that stage.
kind of control
You're supposed to practice.
get on this. Yeah.
Oh, that's what that is. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't play with that.
No, it is. It's kind of fun too. Because you think, just how that can make so much noise.
It's so cool. I love this. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Lightning in a tube is what it is.
Yeah.
Like thunder in a tube. That's wild. This is half the fun of doing all this.
It's the most.
It doesn't work otherwise.
Hey, you.
Thank you. No, not this time. No.
Well, as long as I didn't suck. That's
People really love this character. The Foley guy.
Oh, no. Well,
Cash.
Because, definitely, if I close my eyes and listen, you guys are painting the scene and telling me the story. But they can look over here and watch me dropping something.
It's really getting better.
Good.